Right.
business out there,
That was going to
But
be my next question to you, and then of course you said, "Yeah, let's do it." So
yeah.
glad we got it in for sure. All right, man, let's do this. Let's jump into 6 prospects that could be available for Green Bay at pick 124. When I started this little process here with round 1, and then I said, let's do round 2, let's do round 3. I got to be real, man. I didn't know if people would like it, and then Jacob's like, "Man, that's cool. Why don't we just keep going with this?" So that's what we're going to do. And understand, guys, we're not trying to predict who the Packers are going to take. That's not the point of this exercise. The whole point of this exercise is, according to our PTA big board, here are the prospects that are going to be slightly above where we're picking. In this case, pick 124, slightly below. And it's also the players who have met with the Packers. So it's kind of that sweet spot, maybe 2 or 3 above, 2 or 3 below. They've all met with the Packers already. And let's kind of see what the Packers may be seeing in some of these players. Jacob, you got anything you want to say before we kick this party off here, man?
No, I mean, I just think it was a great exercise. Like you said, we're not necessarily saying these are the guys that will get picked in this round. It's just saying that according to our board, and some people say it's the best, it's a great board. It's an idea of the type of grouping that's going to be around possibly. And then It's a good prospect that a good project to kind of look at the different prospects and just evaluate if you had to make that decision in that grouping, and it lets us look into maybe some of the lesser known players around the areas that we're drafting. I think it's a great exercise, so I'm excited. Let's do it.
Heck yeah. Let's jump into it. And again, guys, there's also prospects that are surrounding these players on the board that I would be okay with at this pick too. Again, these are the players that the Packers have met with and kind of shown genuine interest in. So here we go. 6 prospects that could be available for Green Bay at pick 124. When the Packers make their choice with pick 124 in the 4th round, there's a decent chance these players could still be on the board. Below are scouting reports on each, along with their ranking on our PTA big board. Notably, all 6 have met with the Packers at some point, whether through visits, workouts, or interviews during the 2025 NFL draft process. First, right off the bat, Chris Paul Jr., linebacker. Surprise, surprise. We got another Ole Miss boy here. He's number 98 on our big board. All right, here's what the scouting report says. Chris Paul is a versatile linebacker with a strong frame and a nose for the ball. He's effective against the run, using his physicality to take on blocks and make plays in the backfield, and showed improved instincts and coverage during the 2024 season. While he's not the fastest, his effort and tackling reliability stand out. Possibly a 4th-round talent. Paul could provide the Packers with depth at linebacker and special teams value with the potential to grow into a rotational role. All right, when we look at the PFF grades, here's what we got. Chris Paul Jr. had a season last year. Let me tell you, let's go all the way back to 2021. However, 55.7. Then in 22, he jumps up to a 76.2. 23, he takes a step back to 59.0. And then last year, boy, he skyrocketed towards the top, 87.2. PFF defensive grade, run defense grade of 84.6, pass rush grade of 84.0, and of course the coverage grade is 78.1. When your weakness, Jacob, is a 78.1, you're playing pretty good football in the year 2024. What do you think about Chris Paul Jr. here? They've got him at 6'1", 235. However, at the combine, he measured in at a little over 6 foot, 222 pounds. What do you think about Chris Paul here?
Yeah, I really like him as far as what he did at Ole Miss and the grades and all that. I just am starting to have a little bit of trouble. He's very undersized compared to the linebackers that Goot has typically, you look at Quay and Edge and some of those guys. I mean, 6 foot, 220. That reminds me of a guy named Tariq Carpenter that we had for a little spell there, and we just had no idea what to do with him. I don't see him becoming anything like a tweener or what we used to call it, like the spur, or somebody that could kind of be a safety / linebacker hybrid. I don't see that being his avenue. So I would just be a little bit worried about the size and where exactly he would fit. But as far as his production, I would be totally cool with it. It's just, I don't quite 4th-round pick. I think I'd be cool trying to take a hit on a guy and see if it works. But any earlier than that, I think it's too big of a gamble.
Yeah. And hearing the Greg Cosell talk about him, Tim, like the size is the only thing he could knock on him. Everything else, he's like, this guy's a football player. The way he flows to the ball, the way, even though he's a little undersized, the way he avoids blocking, he's just got a natural, like that knack, that ability to avoid blocks. But obviously with the RAS card coming in at 6'1", leaves a lot to be desired. 4.63, 40-yard dash, 10-yard split of 1.58, which shows he's got good burst out of the gate. And of course, he had a poor agility grade as well there. So I imagine if he was in the 9s here across the board, Tim, he'd probably be a lot higher. We'd probably be talking about 2nd-round pick as opposed to 4th-round pick,
Yeah, I would agree. And there's not much he can do about his height, right? The
Right.
weight he can probably do something, right? He could bulk up a little bit. And then agility, you can train your way through that and get better, get more agile, lighter on your feet. But I mean, hey, like you said, the ability to be elusive around the blocker and get off the block or not even get engaged with a blocker is something I would welcome in Green Bay. We've had issues with backers in the past, just getting blocked right out of the play. And so I think that's a strong attribute. I do agree with Jacob's point that 4th round, I feel great. I don't know about 2nd or 3rd round.
Right.
You're really rolling the dice. So I would totally agree. Chris Paul Jr. is definitely a guy to keep an eye on, but I don't think he's like jumping off the chart on anyone's list right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, PFF absolutely loved him, but according to the RAS, the athletic score, like I said, a little bit undersized there, and really didn't live up to maybe the expectations that people were expecting. Prince in the chat, to me, Chris Paul would be a pass coverage specialist, probably better than anyone currently on the roster. It could be, man. Could be. I like what Coach Lynn says here, too. Nolan, Trey Harris, and Chris Paul Jr., I'd be okay with all these guys in the draft. Amen. Ole Miss, man, I'm telling you, I know we've talked about it a lot. I first became aware of it when we were doing our college football podcast here several months ago, and I remember looking up going, how many Ole Miss players are in this top, literally, they were all ranking right in around the 1st round. Early in the process. Now, they've scattered about since then, but it's just you make that mental note of, man, Lane Kiffin, they're recruiting down there, or they're doing something. They're doing something to get these boys in-house. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Is Chris Paul Jr., is that Chris Paul's, like, the basketball player's son? I've heard that, and then I've heard some people say that wasn't the case. We need to check that.
We might have to get confirmation on that.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat, double-check that for me. See if Chris Paul Jr., linebacker from Ole Miss, is the son of Chris Paul, the basketball player in the NBA. I don't know if he's still in the NBA, but there you go, Chris Paul on the list.
You know what's crazy real quick is you see Coach Lynn's, I'll say trio there, Nolan, Trey Harris, and Chris Paul Jr. It's like, oh, that'd be cool. But then Prince comes in. Well, I'll take Amos, Princely, and Ivy.
It's crazy.
It's like, okay, we got some guys. That sounds.
And let me tell you something, man. When Lane Kiffin hits a recruiting trail this year, you think he ain't mentioning that? I bet he cannot wait. His 2026 class is probably already in the bag his 2025 class is in the bag. You'll have the late signing day stuff. Of course, the transfer portal will open back up there in the spring as well. But you imagine him going on the 2026 recruiting trail. He's going to be mentioned, hey, you want to know if you want to come to Ole Miss or not? Tune into the draft on the 24th. You're going to hear Ole Miss mentioned a lot. That's a big thing for these young players for sure.
We got it confirmed. Chris Paul Jr., no relation to Chris Paul, the baller, the basketball player.
Every time his name got mentioned, someone brung up, oh, that's Chris Paul's son. I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not, but somebody please confirm that for me because I couldn't find anything else. So thank you, chat. Appreciate y'all. Up next on the list, man, hearing Greg Cosell rave about this dude. And Tim, I know obviously we're big Jaden Higgins fans, right? And when you look at Jaylin Noel out of Iowa State, his teammate, literally, when they asked Greg Cosell about Higgins, Greg Cosell said, yeah, and I want to talk about his teammate too. That's what he said. And he went on a spill about Higgins, and then he came back to Jaylin Noel. He talked like he was so versatile. He could line up all over the field, just a truly dynamic player. Let's see what the scouting report says here. Jaylin Noel is a shifty, undersized wide receiver who excels in the slot with quickness and precision route running. His 2024 performance highlighted his ability to create separation underneath and turn short catches into chunk gains with elusiveness after the catch. He's not a deep threat due to his size and speed, but his reliability makes him a fit for Green Bay's timing-based offense, possibly a day 3 pick. Noel could develop into a dependable chain mover for the Packers. So it seems to think it's more of a slot receiver than anything, but if you'll notice the snaps here, he's got 257 out wide but 436 in the slot. Well, that just sounds like a moving Z in Matt LaFleur's offense. It really does. So when you look at the PFF grades starting in 2021, 59.0, 62.8, then he climbed to a 75.5 and then jumped all the way to an 80.5 last year here in 2024, receiving grade of 81.7 with a running grade of 68.0. They had him listed here at 5'11", 200 pounds. When he came to the combine, he actually measured in at 5'10", 194. All right, so a little bit shorter. Bench press, 9.84. Obviously, the Packers have already met with him. That's a strong bench press for a wide receiver.
Dude, look at his vert.
Yeah, vertical jump of 41.5 inches, broad jump of 11.02, both scoring in the high nines, darn near a perfect 10. The composite speed grade, 4.39 is actually what's on the card here. So you look at the tape and go, I wouldn't really say he's a vertical stretcher, and then he goes out there and runs a 4.39 40. That's what Greg Cosell's talking about. 20-yard split of 2.55, scoring a 9.24. 10-yard split of a 1.52, scoring a 9.33. A shuttle of 4.17 and a three-cone of 6.82, giving him a total RAS score of 9.75. The hands seem a little small at 8 3/4, but obviously he didn't have an issue catching the football, it didn't seem like. What do y'all think about Jaylin Noel? Let's say you go through the first round and you go with a Shamar Stewart, right? Let's say in the second round you land a Trey Amos. Let's say in the third round you go a different route, maybe offensive line, and you find yourself in the fourth round going, we haven't gotten a wide receiver yet. Would y'all be okay with Jaylin Noel there in the fourth round?
Absolutely. I mean, another guy we can talk about, right? Look at the RAS score. The only knock is the height and weight. Again, how much control does he have, over that? So he's shifty. The hand size could be an issue, but I don't think so, because he seems to have a pretty good catch radius, and he's coming off one of his best seasons, almost 1,200-yard season last year, 8 tutters, 80 receptions on 119 targets. I mean, he's catching the ball. So I don't think the hand size is an issue. And yeah, absolutely. If we don't get like Jaden Higgins or a Trey Harris or somebody, my goodness, if Jaylin Noel's there, you can't go wrong. I would draft this kid in a heartbeat. And this is coming from a guy who has been adamant about not wanting an undersized receiver in this draft. And if you're going to take a sub 6 foot guy, under 200-pound guy, it's going to be Jaylin Noel. It's probably one of your best bets in this receiver core here.
Yeah, definitely. Jacob, what do you think about Jaylin Noel, man?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see him bringing some versatility and some more chess moves into that wide receiver room for sure. Like Tim said, I wouldn't be jumping out of my seat at the size and weight, but that's not necessarily what he just brings to the table. 80 receptions with a drop rate of 4.8%. I mean, that to me, I'll take that that's very solid. 2.62 yards per route run. I mean, I honestly had no idea that he was explosive. He was with that. I mean, basically a 42-inch vert, jumping 11-inch broad. That's pretty insane. That's pretty good. So I'd be happy. I'd welcome him with open arms into that room.
Definitely. And again, like Tim always says, the only thing that's really dragging him down in terms of RAS is what God gave him, 5'10". He can't do anything about that, right? I mean, you can't. There's no exercise you can do to make yourself taller there. You know what I mean? So
he's 22.5, so I don't think he's going to hit another growth spurt or anything. So
right.
I think this is what we're going to get, right? Put the taller cleats on him, right? On game day.
Look at my man running through people here too, Tim. Look at this, dude.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. So again, that's Jaylin Noel, wide receiver, Iowa State, in the 104 spot on our PTA big board. Up next, look at this big fella right here. At 106, we got Aeneas Peebles. All right. Defensive tackle, Virginia Tech. It says Peebles is a compact, disruptive defensive tackle who wins with leverage and a quick first step. He's shown a knack for penetrating gaps and pressuring quarterbacks from the interior with improved hand usage in 2024. Though he can get overpowered by bigger linemen in the run game, Peebles' motor and hustle make him a solid depth piece, possibly a fourth rounder. He could bolster the Packers' defensive line rotation with upside as a situational pass rusher. Looking at the PFF grades, boy, did he pop the last 2 years, guys. Started in 2020, 67.5, 62.0, 65.8. Then he jumps all the way to an 86.1 in 2023, and he wasn't done yet. He climbs all the way up to an 89.1 in 2024 with a pass rush grade, Jacob, of 91.2. And, oh, by the way, a little run defense grade is 78.5. And this dude, he's becoming one of my favorite prospects of this draft, just looking at the numbers, looking at the measurables and everything. And the Packers seem to have their eye on him. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's another interesting case because he is a bit undersized for being maybe, he played a little bit of one tech, but predominantly a three tech. I believe I don't think he actually is 6'1". I think he's under that, and they have him listed around 290. But all things considered, I mean, the guy just produced, like you said, the last 2 years, the 86.1 grade, 89.1 grade. He's been very available, played 13 games, 12 games. Decent. I mean, for being a big guy in the middle too, a decent sack production. In 2023, he had 6 sacks. The other 2 years, he had 3. He had 31 hurries last year as a big man in the middle, batted down 2 balls, played predominantly again in B gap. But you talk about a well-rounded guy, a 91.2 pass rush grade. Like you said, the defense grade is nothing to shake a stick at with a 78.5, a true pass rush grade of 71.2. And he had a pass rush win rate as basically a nose/3 tech of 17.8%. Like, that's freaking good, dude.
Yeah, when you look at the RAS card, a 7.29, not horrible, right? And again, what drug is RAS down? His composite size grade, 6 foot, 282. He had 28 reps on the bench that almost scored an 8. It was at a 7.57. Vertical jump of 32.5 inches, scoring a 9.09. He also had a broad jump of 9.01, scoring a 7.71. So his composite explosion grade graded out great according to RAS over at MathBomb's site. Arm length 31.38. His hand size 9.63. 40-yard dash, though, boys. Tim, look at this, 4.94. That kind of weight, pretty solid. And then the shuttle at a 4.70. So I imagine if he had scored in the 9s on RAS, we might be talking about this guy in the 2nd or 3rd round. I could see him fall into the 4th, but if somebody falls in love with that production, man, as we just mentioned, according to PFF, this dude could go. He could go in the 2nd or 3rd round. Who knows, man?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we take a 3 tech, but I doubt we would go and reach for a guy like Peebles. He's kind of like teetering just outside that top 100, depending on whose board you're looking at. I know Hokies fans love Peebles for sure, and you're getting a hell of a football player either way. That being said, in the 4th round, if he's on the board at 124 and we don't have a D lineman yet, oh my gosh, yes, run the card and bring him. I really would love to see us improve on that D line. It kind of all depends on how you look at it. He might be a little bit of a project, at first, like a lot of rookies are, but I think he could make our D line a lot better for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Daryl in the chat says Mike Daniels comp. I could see that. Mike Daniels being a little shorter in stature, right? So, and again, for the folks that are like, oh, he's too short, I understand saying that Goody might not take him because of the lack of height. But anytime somebody says a defensive lineman's too short to play at the next level, I go and look at their college production, and all I think of is Aaron Donald. Every time I'm like, well, I'm sure glad the Rams didn't think that Aaron Donald was too short, because we would have missed out on some darn good football, man, for sure. So, again, that's Peebles coming in at the 106 spot on our PTA big board as it sits right now. Let's go to the chat real quick. Actually, there you go, 6'1", 266 was Aaron Donald, so just 1 inch taller and actually quite a bit lighter to play that defensive tackle spot. Appreciate that info. We give a shout out to Clint Cosgrove becoming a member here on YouTube. Appreciate you. And Go Pack Go all day says congrats on the success of your channel. Hey, we appreciate it, man. This is the success of our channel, man, but we appreciate the kind words. It's just something that has come together as a group collectively, the viewers, the listeners, the guys here. It's been a blast, man, and it's cool. I think we just cracked, in the last 28 days, 113,000 views on the channel. So it's just we're tracking. I can honestly see, if things keep going the way they're going, probably in the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to look up and be somewhere around 250,000 views per 28 days, which is kind of cool, man, just for a silly little podcast about the Packers. So, all right, next on the list in the 108 spot, CJ West, defensive tackle out of Kent State is what it says here. Obviously, I think he played for Indiana last year. So
yeah, did he transfer or something?
We need to change. He may have. Hey, there's a lot of these players, man, that you look up and it's like, wait, why am I only finding pictures of them in this uniform? With the transfer portal, going crazy. Obviously, he played for Indiana. So CJ West, a powerful edge defender with a stout build and a strong anchor against the run. He's not the most explosive pass rusher, but his 2024 tape shows a developing bull rush and relentless effort that wears down tackles. West's versatility to kick inside on passing downs adds to his appeal. Possibly available in the fourth round, he'd give the Packers a high-character depth option with the potential to carve out a role in the front seven. When you look at the PFF grades, boys, I mean, that's about as steady as you can get. Started off in 2020, 60.7, then fell to a 52.7. And since then, 22, 23, 24, the grades were 80.1, 85.9, 83.8. I mean, that is so solid across the board. And what did he do well? He's a run stuffer, baby. They had him listed at 6'2", 317 with a run defense grade of 88.1 and a pass rush grade of 72.9, which isn't too bad either. When you look at the RAS card, a 915 is what he came in at. It's somewhat incomplete, but enough to give you a full score of a 915. 40-yard dash, 495 with a 20-yard split of 287. He weighed in, looks like 6'1", 316 pounds with 28 bench reps, and that vertical jump was a 33 inches. It's crazy to see these guys, Jacob, that are over 300 pounds jumping higher than some of the corners. It's just wild to think about, man.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately higher than I can jump too, which
you kidding me? I pull a butt cheek. Ain't no way trying to do that vert. What do you think about CJ West here, man?
I like him a lot. I really do. I think that he could be more of an actual true nose if we needed him to be. He played 322 snaps in the A gap in 2022. 2023 took a little step back and played predominantly in the B gap, but did have almost 100 snaps at A gap. And then 2024 went back to almost having an even split between A and B gap. And like they talked about, I mean, steady Eddie, just consistent as all can be. Seems like he's there relatively consistently as far as availability. 10 games, 12 games, 13 games. Not much for sack production, but did have a decent amount of hurries for most of the years he was playing football there. And then, like you said, a run defense grade at 88.1 is amazing. And he also peppers in a little bit of that pass rush. He has a pass rush win rate of 10.1%, which for a big man clogging up the middle, you can't be mad at that. And he has a run stop rate of 11.4%. That's where he's making his money.
Ooh, let's go. So, yeah, he did transfer from Kent State. Got confirmation there. So when did he transfer, Jacob? Do you know for sure? Did it tell you any information there? I want to say it's – if I'm looking at this correctly, it says transfer. CJ West entered the transfer portal 2020, it looks like. So he probably spent – these all three of these years probably were at Indiana, I would imagine. I was just trying to get a little confirmation on that. So CJ West, man, another guy the Packers have met with. Tim, what do you think about this guy, man? I mean, obviously he came in a little shorter than what was originally reported at 6'2", 317, but the weight still checked out fairly close as he measured in at 6'1" and weighed in at 316 here. 28 reps too, not too bad.
Yeah, definitely. The thing I like about him is he's a 4-3 guy, so he's not going to have any problem stepping into a 4-3 scheme and make an impact. And I like the fact that he's got a really good run grade, and then it's like the pass rush grade is nothing to laugh at. It's like that can improve too, and he could be a multifaceted guy in the NFL. So there's a lot to like about him, and he's a high motor guy, right? He's got the high motor, so that intensity and that energy is always there. So there's a lot to like about him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's see here. Coach Lynn has a little special request. We'll work this in real quick. Does anyone have any info on defensive lineman Vernon Broughton? Let me just look him up on the board real quick.
Texas.
What do you got? What do you got?
I mean, he was phenomenal last year. 2024 had a grade of 86.1, playing 16 games. He had 4 sacks, 2 hits, but 26 hurries. Played predominantly in the B gap, but also did play consistent snaps over tackle and in the A gap as well. Pass rush grade of 86.3, run defense grade of 79, true pass set pass rush grade of 80.7. And again, a very well-rounded dude. Pass rush win rate of 13% with a run stop rate of 7.6. When you look at his individual games by week, he had some absolute studs in there. Played Texas A&M, almost at a 90 elite grade. Played Georgia real strong at 76. Iowa State was an 84. And the last game of the year against Ohio State was at 86.8. So he's definitely a type of player. Again, though, we have to look at it, him and next to Collins. Which one of those guys is the catalyst? Which one was the difference maker? Or are they both, bringing something different? It'll be an interesting dynamic there.
Definitely. And we've got Vernon Broughton on the in the 105 spot on our PTA big board. Now you're probably thinking, why aren't we mentioning him in this article? Because the Packers have not met with him. Doesn't mean they're not interested in him. Doesn't mean that won't happen. We're just keying in on the players that have met with the Packers within this range so far. And it's pretty cool when you look at it, because you got within the same tier, that same exact tier, you've got Jaylin Noel in the 104 spot. You've got Vernon Broughton in the 105 spot. You've got Peebles in the 106 spot. And then you've got CJ West in the 108 spot. This is the board that was updated even after we written this article. So, it's going to be cool to see where these guys end up. I think it's exactly what Greg Cosell was talking about, man. They literally said, now this is a defensive tackle heavy draft, right, Greg? And before they could say Greg, oh, yes, it is. Like, he lost his mind. Like, you have no idea how many defensive tackles are solid prospects in this draft. So really exciting stuff. Next, we've got in the 108 or 109 spot, Elijah Roberts. I put edge / defensive tackle. I think he's out of Southern Methodist. Is that right? Is what you guys got on him? Because he's in some places he's listed as a defensive end. And, when I hear defensive end, sometimes I'm thinking, okay, was he a 34? You look at the size, he's probably big enough to play on the interior in the 4-3. But it sounds like he really made his hay at edge. So, and most likely a 4-3, I would imagine. So Elijah Roberts is an athletic edge rusher with a lean frame and promising bursts off the line. He flashed pass rush potential in 2024 with a quick get off and some bend, though he's still raw and needs to add strength to hold up against NFL linemen. His upside lies in his tools, making him a developmental prospect. At pick 124, Roberts could be a project worth stashing for Green Bay, offering long-term potential as a rotational edge. So his PFF card says 6'4", 295. All right. PFF grades starting in 2020, 67.3, 59.0, 72.9. And then look out, here he comes. 2023, a 91.3. And then in 2024, a 91.1. Guys, you could count on one hand how many players graded out in the 90s in back-to-back years in college. Now, I know it's probably a smaller school being Southern Methodist, but really, really interesting. Or is that what you got, Jacob, Southern Methodist? Am I remembering correctly?
That's correct. But, dude, I mean – I'm blown away. So let's look at his opponents. 2024, he played Nevada, BYU, TCU, Florida State, Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Virginia, Cal, Penn State, and Clemson. Like, he played a lot of really good teams there. He had, like you said, 91s in the last 2 seasons. But what's even more insane to me, he had 8 sacks in 2024, 13 sacks in 2023. But get this. In the last 2 years, he has almost 100 hurries. He had 45 hurries in 2024. He had 47 in 2023. That's insane. And then you look at his pass rush grade at 97, run defense grade 81.3, but the true pass rush grade is at 90.7, and he has a pass rush win rate of 22.4% with a run stop rate of 8.5%. I mean, he's an absolute freak. His best games were against BYU, he had the 90, TCU a 90, Duke almost a 90, Clemson last game of the year he had an 85.8. He only had 2 quote unquote bad games. Those were the first 2 weeks of the season. They were both one was a 59, one's a 56. Other than that, he was living in the 80s and 90s and 70s.
Got it. And then the RAS score here, Tim, 6'8", He measured in at 6'3", 285 with a 31.5-inch vert, 908 broad jump, 40-yard dash of 4.78 for a guy who weighed in at 285. Boy, that's pretty darn stout in my opinion. Now, the problem is they've got him listed as a defensive end. If he was listed as a defensive tackle, his RAS would probably be in the green, to be honest with you. But, again, he is an edge defender, and that 4.78 looks kind of slow compared to a 4.47 from someone like Pierce out of Tennessee, or one of those guys, Shamar Stewart. I think it ran a 4.540. So, going to be interesting to see where he goes. What do you think about him, Tim? Elijah Roberts, would you be okay with him somewhere around this pick range here?
In the 4th round? Absolutely. We got to put the V next to him too, the versatility factor.
Absolutely.
Just looking at some of the write-ups on him, experience to play in a, probably the 4-3 or a 3-4. and he also can basically, they feel like he can line anywhere from, 4 IDN to a wide 7, basically being your edge, and kind of anything in between. And I think when like the grades that Jacob mentioned, just looking at that alone, like this is a guy, you draft him and you just start plugging him on that line and figure out what works the best, and move forward. But I think we could do a lot worse at 124, taking a guy like Elijah Roberts, especially if we don't go edge early. There's been some thought that maybe we go edge early on. If we don't, and you're looking 4th round and you want to pick up an edge, if this guy's on the board, I think we probably run that card.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So again, that's Elijah Roberts. I know Coach Lynn says, thanks. I came across him today and have not heard much about him. I didn't know much about him. I've seen his name while we were building the board, but I hadn't really dove into it deep. And the fact that the Packers met with him obviously brings him to our attention here. I'd be totally okay with this in the 4th round for sure. And again, let's say the 1st round you end up going Jahdae Barron. The 2nd round you end up going Jaden Higgins. The 3rd round you land a defensive tackle or something, right, or vice versa. And then you look up in the 4th round and go, hey, this might be a nice little depth piece at edge. It really could.
Did you see Brian Ellis says that he entered in his data and his RAS, if he is listed as a D tackle, is a 9.35.
Freak. Absolute freak. Yeah. And again, like Tim said, man, you line him up on the outside on the edge. And then when you go to your base or when you go to a NASCAR package, or even just a pass rushing down, kick him into like a 5 tech or even a 4I, something like that, and let him eat there. Like if you put somebody in the 1 opposite of him in the 4I and let him just go to work while you got like a Rashawn Gary on the outside shoulder of the tackle taking care of business. I really, really like the versatility there, like Tim was pointing out. So again, that's Elijah Roberts in the 109 spot on our big board. Up next, I think you guys will recognize this cat right here.
Here's a guy.
In the 113 spot, he's actually a top 30 visit for the Green Bay Packers. Wow. Jacob Bayer. Now, they got him listed as guard, as we talked about. We see him more as a center, although he has shown versatility to play other spots there at the guard position. Jacob Bayer is a gritty. I want you to listen to how they describe him. He's a gritty, technically sound offensive guard who plays with a mean streak in the run game. I'm going to read it again. A gritty, technically sound offensive guard who plays with a mean streak in the run game. He's shown solid pass blocking chops in 2024, using good hand placement and awareness. Though his lateral agility is average against quicker defenders, Bayer's toughness and football IQ make him a fit for Green Bay's line depth, possibly a 4th round pick. He could compete for a backup role with the chance to develop into a spot starter. And listen, the fact that he's got experience at center, man, I mean, that's a lot of value there in the 4th or 5th round. There's no doubt about it. I think there's a chance before the Packers did the top 30 visit. If you just said, what do you think about Jacob Bayer? I'd probably be like, 5th, 6th round pick. A top 30 visit on this guy, man. Don't be surprised if they pull the trigger on him in the 3rd round. They obviously like him, and that scouting report is exciting. When you look at the PFF grades, again, he played at a smaller school. We know that. But in 2021, 60.1, then he jumps to a 69.6. Then he jumps all the way up to an 82.9 and then fell back just a touch to 81.9. So the last 2 years playing, obviously, that was him at the center position as well. So 2nd highest graded center in all of college football, like over 400 teams input in 2023. He dominated the opponents across the line from him. RAS 704. He measured in at 6'2", 306 with 32 bench reps, though. I mean, the fact that you could have a center benching 32 reps, scoring a 929, really like that. Explosion grade, it's okay. The composite speed grade is considered good, with the 20-yard split being a 292, scoring an 867. And the other thing, too, man, 32.5-inch arms. Like, I know 33 is that cutoff for tackles, but 32.5 at center, that's not too shabby, especially someone who's only 6'2". Lower center of gravity, right? But again, we broke it down. Offensive lineman under 6'4", more likely to not succeed, although this is right around Jason Kelsey's range here, Jacob, in terms of height.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shy about putting him in there, at least seeing what he's got. I think he's shown that he's got a really good center of gravity, good base. I haven't gotten to watch much film on him at all, but, the agility grade maybe is something you'd maybe kind of scoff at a little bit. If he were to improve that just slightly, his RAS, I think, would look a lot better. But again, a guy that seems like the biggest knock on him is just the fact that he's a little undersized. Hopefully he plays with the chip on his shoulder and is able to overcome that a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. What do you think, Tim? Jacob Bayer in the 4th round. You pulling the trigger on that if he's the best available?
If he's the best available, absolutely. I mean, I think he's a good backup center plan, right? You know, you put him behind Big E and, you know, or maybe he finds his way on the team, you know, at a guard position or something in a backup role, kind of just, you know, works his way around. And like Jacob said, you know, like work on that agility skills. You know, you can train that up and get better. There is a way to do it. Some guys are just naturally more agile and graceful than others. And we're talking about a center here. We're not talking about a wide out or something. So I don't think that's that huge of a deal. But then again, everyone says that until you see your center getting pancaked left and right, then you have a problem. Him being a little on the shorter side, I think that's, you know, if he can play the position at the NFL level, nobody's going to care about his height, you know, after year one. So, and I think the Jason Kelce comparison is a brilliant way to bring that up. You know, nobody talks about Jason Kelce being undersized as a center. They talk about him being a Hall of Fame center. So, you know, I think Jacob Bayer, like you said, if he's there and the board is aligned that way and makes sense, and we want to go that route, I would have no problem taking him at 124, maybe even higher, depending on, you know, where he's at. He could be around in the 5th round in theory too.
Mm-hmm. H.E. Solder in the chat says, Bayer, a captain and or wrestler. I don't see any history of wrestling with just a quick Google search. You guys do a little research on that as well. I don't see anything about captain. But obviously the Packers have got him on the radar there being a top 30 visit for them. This is a perfect, like, well, that might be a smoke screen. Really? We're going to send a smoke screen on a guy that's projected to be a 4th round pick. Like, I think the Packers want to get him in there and go, look, we know he's a little short, but if he's as technically sound as the scouting report suggests, and he is that gritty type of human being, man, that's the type of guy you want on the bottom side of your roster for sure, man. So, again, that's Jacob Bayer in the 113 spot. Really excited to see if the Packers end up taking him on draft day. So, all 6 players bring traits that could address Green Bay's depth and needs, and their meetings with the Packers during the draft process suggest they're on the team's radar. Which do you like the most of these 6? Let us know in our favorite draft prospects chat here on Patreon. Again, if you want to join our Patreon group, just scan the QR code in the upper right. That'll send you to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. It is the number one way to support the show. And we're actually doing a giveaway this Saturday. We're going to be giving away an autographed rookie card of Javon Bullard. Really, really nice piece of memorabilia that was donated by Jazambi, one of our loyal listeners, friend of the show. So anything else on this list right here? Anybody that maybe didn't make the list you guys want to touch on briefly before we move on to the next segment here?
I got nothing. What do you got, Jacob? Anybody we missed?
I mean, there's a ton of guys. Yeah, I think this is a good grouping of guys that we could be definitely on the watch list there.
Yeah, I can see that too.